Hey guys, it's Ethan from Zimmer Labs, and this is the second lightsaber I just finished up for Telly. Let's see if you guys can guess what it is. It is very similar to something I built for Liam probably 2 years back, year and a half back. Not exactly sure. You guys give up yet? It is the chassis, removable modular chassis for an 89 Sabers Mace Windu lightsaber. Telly wanted me to build a masterpiece level 89 Sabers Mace Windu for him, and he wanted me to do it to be similar to what I did for Liam, but I wanted to make it better than I did the first time around. There were a few things that I would have changed if I could have when I built it the first time, and I always want to just kind of try to change the overall design for any design that I do more than once, just so that, you know, nothing that I build is ever kind of the same as before. It's a challenge that way, and you know, it keeps me creating, you know, new ideas, new innovations, keeps everything more fun and fresh. But basically, what this guy is a 100% removable, self-contained modular chassis that slides right into this guy. And it is nicer than the first time I built it for a couple of reasons. For starters, the first time I made this general design, it had an 18500 battery in it because I could not fit an 18650 battery in it, and it had a 22mm, I think, speaker. This time I was able to squeeze a 25mm premium bass speaker into it, and I did that by doing a couple of things. First was by working with a totally custom chassis. And so this chassis here is made out of a number of different chassis. This top section here is a Goth 3 Designs battery holder from a Graflex 2.0 master chassis. And then the two sections down here are from a Goth 3 Designs 89 Sabers Mace Windu Padawan chassis. And then we have a stock Custom Works crystal chamber set right here. This is a standard generic 7/8 inch crystal chamber setup. And what I did was I took the Padawan chassis and I cut it up into pieces. The point of doing that was because the Padawan chassis would have worked, but there's no crystal chamber in it, so I wanted to add that, and but more importantly, I had to minimize it. So to begin with, the recharge port and speaker section here, the speaker section used to come down to about there, and the speaker was inserted there facing down. So I had to shorten this up and mill the inside of this part of the chassis out so I could flip the speaker around so it faces down. And then I had to cut it so that I could attach it to this section of the chassis, which is the section that holds the soundboard, and also shorten this section. This section used to go to about here, so I trimmed off that part there, and I trimmed off about 1.5 inches from the bottom of this section, and then mounted the two together by just cutting it in a way that gave it sort of a an L-shaped, or a what's the word I'm looking for? Not parallel, the other word, you know, the opposite of parallel. So it's essentially like a puzzle. It's got an L section cut that fits this piece right into this piece, and then there are 4 steel, little tiny micro steel screws that go into this guy and into this chassis, and hopefully you guys can see them. Pretty hard to see, and they are black steel screws, so they're hard to make out versus the black chassis. But doing it that way, nice and strong and permanently mounted, but you can take the screws out if you want to separate the sections. Then I had just added some simple geometric hexagonal silver mesh here, and mounted the switch assembly up here with a stock Custom Works Neopixel blade connector up top. I had to use the ultra short pins because space is at a premium with this build. But the most important thing that I did to make this all doable was I had to invert the switch assembly. So this switch assembly up here, there are two buttons built in, and they match up with the two cutouts in the hilt right here. And then you use these golden blocks here to press the, on and off and auxiliary buttons, which are these guys. But the way it's intended to be installed is with these screws here being on the underside. But if you invert it and then install it that way, when you install the chassis up into the hilt, you can line up the bottom screw hole here with the top screw hole in the hilt, therefore enabling you to slide this switch mechanism up about 3/4 of an inch, giving you 3/4 of an inch more to work with inside the hilt. So this guy is intended to be installed here, but now it installs here. And because of that, now everything fits, even with the larger speaker and the larger battery. And that is key, that is critical. So, got a twist to activate power switch situation here. And the reason I did that was because typically I like to use this middle golden button as the main power switch by putting two springs on steel pins here and attaching them to the back of the switch so that it's spring loaded, and then putting a latching main power switch underneath it so it pushes in and pushes out. But can't do that with this setup because now that I inverted the switch mechanism, there would be nothing to attach the screws and springs to because the battery is sitting right there. So there's nowhere for the switch to go and nowhere for the attachment and the springs and the screws to attach to. So I was forced to not put the switch in there, so I had to come up with another idea, and it was really pretty obvious for this setup how I was going to do it and how I should do it. The recharge port is right here, and that lines up with the bottom of the pommel, which happens to line up with this handy black greeble. So when you install everything in here, this guy goes through the hilt and into the recharge port, and so that means all you have to do is to turn it on and off. You just spin this guy, twist it on, twist it off, like this. Simple and elegant, a good solution. So now we have main power button up here. Really nicely illuminated, 1.5 inch long, quartz crystal, dual Neopixel illumination, one on either end. Nice and bright, that's for sure. Now, Telly wanted me to build this with only purple blades. So for the most part I did that, but what I also did was I wanted to give him some variety. So there are probably 4 or 5 different color purples in here. I don't know if you guys will be able to see that in the crystal, but this is a pulsing purple. This is a bluer purple. This is a redder purple. This is a purple fire blade. And then, at least for purposes of this video, I added a blue blade. Because I felt remiss just having purple blades. That crystal is just a gorgeous blue color. Hope you guys can really see that and appreciate it on the screen here. But in person, that blue is just, it's like a really, really intense royal blue. I've never actually seen Neopixels look this color blue before in person. I'm not sure why, because it must have something to do with the crystal, but it's really striking and really nice. And then a green. Electricity blade. And back to purple. So I left off the fire blade, the POV blade, a couple others that I usually will put on my lightsabers, but Telly didn't want them, so I didn't put them on there. And Telly, if you don't want the blue, the green, the yellow, or the electricity blade, I'll take them off, no problem. But for purposes of this video, I wanted to have them in there. Now, to install it. And this is the cool part, or one of the cool parts. It's very simple. Just take the entire chassis, slide it up so that the switches are lined up with the holes, right? Push it all the way up and in until you see through that hole right there, there's a black set screw that you can see in the middle, which is this set screw right here. And all you have to do to lock the chassis in place is simply to tighten this guy down until it is flush with the leather wrap. And now, totally locked in. And now to just put the pommel on right quick, reinsert this kill key / main power switch. I'll show you guys how easily this works. He says as it doesn't work. Ah, there we go. Put the pommel on all the way. Still not on all the way. Okay, now that the pommel's on all the way, all you have to do is twist. Now that's off. Twist. Now it's back on. Off. On. Off. On. So nice and easy main power switch. If it annoys you or if it's acting up at all, you can just pull it out. No problem. But you don't have to. You can leave it in there. It's fully functional. Just so you guys can see how they work. Power here. Auxiliary here. Nice and crisp, great action. And then 2 magnets on the back of each of them, which works out great because underneath there is a steel plate here, a steel battery here, battery again, steel plate again, and then I just had to add 1 magnet here into what is already a handy, nicely placed, pre-drilled hole. So N52 5mm round magnets is what I opted for, and as you can see they fit very nicely, very securely, and they work great. It's the blade plug that comes with the hilt. And to lock the blade plug in for retention, there's a little tiny brass set screw right here that uses a T7 socket to tighten it. And that's that. For the blade, however, I wanted to change it up because that is kind of a tiny screw for blade retention. So I figured not only is it a bit too small for my liking, but in my opinion it's best to be removed so that when you turn it on there are no holes that are blocked. This way you get shine through on all the holes, even the retention hole. But in so doing you still have to have blade retention. So what I did was I shortened this, I guess you'd call this the emitter. I shortened this up by about 2 threads, and as you can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There are still 11 threads on the emitter, so it's still more than secure when you screw it in. But by losing 2 threads, I was able to free up enough space to do blade retention by mounting a aluminum ring around the base of the blade, which slides in. And now to lock the blade in, you simply slide the emitter back on over the blade, screw it into place, and voila. You do get a nice crystal reveal simply by unscrewing and sliding this guy down like so. Nice and bright blade. Keep in mind that my workshop here has about 30,000 lumens going on as we speak right now. So this is a really incredibly bright workshop. And that blade is still throwing off that much light. So now let's run through the blades. So the first one, a flash on ignition standard purple blade. Nice drag tip. Second is a pulsing purple blade with no flash on ignition. Third one is a bit slower ignition, non-flash, more blue-ish purple blade. This is a unstable purple blade that is also a bit more on the blue side. A purple turbine blade. Purple Tron blade. Purple Fire blade. Nice bright blue blade. Electricity blade. Back to the beginning. Last thing to show you guys, well, second to last, let's do the color wheel.
You have lost.
Or we'll do a force effect.
This part is over.
I can never do the color wheel when I want to.
This part is over.
So we lock it in at a nice cool white or cyan color just by holding down auxiliary and pressing the power button and then twisting. You can run through all the different colors. And then the other thing I wanted to show you guys is the force effects. Rather than having cheesy force effects sounds, what I like to do is put in my character's quotes so that you don't have to have quotes all the time when you jump between fonts, but you can have them when you want them. So,
I have had it with these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane.
obviously not from Star Wars, but that's okay.
This is a tasty burger.
Again, not from Star Wars.
I have had it with these motherfucking snakes. You have lost.
There we go. Oh, no force quotes on that blade. I have to fix that.
You'll find out full of surprises. You'll find out full of surprises. Your overconfidence is your weakness.
Some loop quotes. Ewok quotes. And Chewie. Nothing on that blade. I gotta fix that. Tusken Raider. Jar Jar Binks, because why not? R2.
You said people gonna die? This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight.
Nothing like Alec Guinness.
These aren't the droids you're looking for. This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight. The Jundland wastes are not to be traveled lightly.
My favorite quote. Gotta love that.
What a piece of junk! With the blast shield down, I can't even see. How am I supposed to fight?
And then every blade has its own audio track, as per usual.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes. I will do what I must. Chancellor Palpatine, Sith Lords are our speciality. Chancellor Palpatine, Sith...
Very happy with how it came out. It's got a nice, large battery. Oh, actually, no. I suppose there's one other thing I didn't show you guys really yet. You probably have already seen it. But rather than the standard cheesy black rubber backing here that's faux leather, I like to put leather on there. So this has got nice imported black Italian leather on the back of the hilt, and also on the bottom of the hilt around the pommel ring. It's just a little touch, not a big deal, but it feels nice. It's really soft and supple, and it's just really beautiful leather. Plus it's a nice tight cut, a nice precise fit, so it looks really good. It looks like it's supposed to be there. And then the retention for the chassis is essentially camouflaged out. Like, yes, you can see it, but only because you know it's there. Otherwise, you're not going to notice that, the little tiny itty bitty screw. But it is right there, and all you do to remove the chassis is just back it out a few turns like so. So it's sticking out about 1/16 of an inch, 2 1/8 of an inch, something like that. And then you can slide the chassis out and just put it back in, screw it in until it's flush so you can't feel it, and you are good. Now I will leave you guys with the shot of the hilt all fully assembled with all the greebles in place, just so you guys can get a good look at how beautiful this hilt really is. 89 Sabers did such a nice job with this. You know, attention to detail, everything is screen accurate and correct, with the finish being just beautiful. Nice sharp edges on all the greebles, nice depth and definition of everything, like, you know, the ribs in the middle here are nice and deep. These rubber grips are nice and chunky and big. Nice depth on all the greebles up top. and just beautiful chrome too. You know, it's just really a beautiful showpiece. As Samuel Jackson said, it's like a pimp cane, and it really is the pimpest lightsaber of all time. No, there's no doubt about that. Black leather, gold, and chrome everywhere. Oh yeah, and it's a weapon. Can't go wrong with that. So stay tuned. I've got more to follow. The next video is going to be on this guy's 89 Sabers Luke hero that I just finished building. So that's coming up shortly. This is a beautiful hilt also. And as always, thank you guys for watching.